Hello, Helen. Welcome. Could you tell us a bit about yourself?
Hi, Christopher. My name is Helen O'Sullivan-Tyrrell, sometimes. I am Irish, living in Brussels for 30 years now, I just realised. So that is definitely past the tipping point of having lived in this country more than my home country of Ireland. I came here to work, as most people do, thinking I would stay for a year, two. And here we are, 30 years later, total career change. Started off as a lobbyist, and I'm now working full-time as a painter. And in the last 5 years, I opened up my gallery space, which is where we're filming now. It had been my studio space before that.
Great, thanks very much. And can you tell us a little bit maybe about how your background in visual arts, visual communications, how's that had an effect on you as a painter? Has it prepared you for life as a painter?
It was a very circuitous route, I have to say. I've been through many iterations of myself, I had wanted to go to art school after I had finished school, but instead, as a lot of people find from their parents, that this is maybe not the most encouraged direction, sadly. But I found myself in School of Architecture in Dublin, and I studied architecture. So in terms of visual, drawing, that kind of communication, that's where it really properly started, I think. And from that, becoming a very frustrated student architect, I left that behind, I have to say. I didn't stick with the architecture to professional level, so I never worked as an architect, apart from summer jobs. But the painting and the desire to draw always stayed with me, so that is pretty much how I ended up here. I've been through, when I was in college, I was wholly distracted by what was going on around me. Ireland in the 80s and the 90s was a very different society to what it is now. Thank goodness it has changed so much. But then it was so fraught, especially for women. There were so many oppressive hangovers from our, very Catholic society, between, the schooling, the formation of the state, all that stuff. Women's rights took a really hard knock. So I was very engaged with politics when I was in college, which then kind of formed another layer where I engaged at student union level, and then I became involved in lobbying, and that is actually how I ended up in Brussels. It was from that lobbying social change kind of point of view. So there was a period where the art and that side of me really took a back seat.
And has that period of political engagement that you talk about and political awareness, has that affected your artwork, your art now? Is it reflected now?
Yes, very much so. And I think art, it's a way we have of processing what we're thinking. I mean, that is essential for me. What art is, it is sort of an outward expression of what you are struggling with, internally, or how you make sense of the world around you, or how you see it reflected back at yourself. Definitely, a lot of my work visually, it has imagery, it has iconography, it has certain images like the Virgin Mary, crucifixes, images of children making their first Holy Communion, which I did a whole series of these because, these ubiquitous things that from our childhood, seeing little girls in tiny white wedding dresses, essentially, it strikes a chord, and it really engaged me. I really had to think that one out. What is that about? Where is this coming from? So it's kind of dark. I mean, the images themselves are not particularly dark or gloomy, but but certainly there's an undercurrent there, and it's certainly some way I have to try and make sense of, how we assimilate our upbringing and our culture and the things that surround us. So yeah, it has had an impact and continues to, to this day, because, there's not a day that goes past when we're not confronted by things like dogma, whether it's our own or, in other communities, but, the rules and things that we have to sort of live by and don't necessarily agree with. Yeah, it's a form of protest, I guess.
It's a very interesting area, that, and I want to pick up maybe on the idea that you mentioned of the threshold of youth to adult, maybe, and explore that a little bit more. Maybe for non-artists speaking, how do you bring that process to life? How do you convey that messaging through a painting?
This transition, you mean? Yeah, well, I'm very engaged in portrait work as well, which is a little bit different. I'm not really sure what the difference is, but representational work, figuration and portraiture, I am fascinated by people. I'm absolutely fascinated by, the way we look, the way we carry ourselves, the way we interact with each other. I'm working a lot with old photographs, bound photographs, family photos, and when you see it with your own kids, you have photos from the day they're born until, now, and there's so many of them, but back in the day, there would have been maybe, one of the baby, when they make their communion, one of their, wedding, whatever, these stages of life. So I'm fascinated by, children and how they sort of develop into, adults. I mean, physically, emotionally. I just find this really, really interesting, and I think it's kind of an inexhaustive source of information and inspiration for me.
Thanks, Helen. Wanted to move on to another point that we discussed previously, and that is about the commercialisation of art. I know you had some kind of questions, and we discussed it a lot. What makes an artist authentic? Can you tell me more about how you've navigated those feelings?
Yeah, that's a really tough question. That is a really difficult question. I don't think being a successful artist means being one. You can make a lot of money making art. It doesn't make you a good artist. I think you said the word authenticity. That is all. That is all. Actually, you can only be authentic. You cannot. There's going to be a lot of nots and do nots here, but I feel that once you start to introduce this idea of commercialization or commodifying your art, then I think it's really, really difficult to get back out of it. If your work strikes a chord with somebody and they wish to possess it, that's one thing. That's something, right? So this is, I really do struggle with this, because the minute you want to produce something for, say, a show or a gallery or for a client, there's something else in the room there. You're not alone with your inspiration or your process. And I think this is the real struggle that artists have. So, what makes an artist is just, well, in my case, it's this compulsion to paint. Painting is my medium, and there are people who sculpt and photograph and all the rest, but painting is my language. And, at the moment, I kind of have the luxury of being able to paint just what I want to paint, what I move to paint, and great, if somebody else likes it, this is great. I used to be very hung up on who will like it, who will buy it, who will this appeal to. And if that is the only lesson, really, is like you have to stop worrying and thinking about that, because that's another voice in your head that you really don't need. You only need one voice, and that's this one. So.
Thanks very much. That's really inspiring, actually. Let's talk maybe now about the Green Door Gallery. It's a fantastic space. Can you tell me a little bit about the vision that you had, or you have still now ongoing, for this space?
Thank you. Yeah, I love this space. I have been here for years. As I said to you, it was my painting studio. So yes, I've been here for a long time. But then, painting is kind of it's a solo activity. And I was trying to find a way to balance my painting time, my studio time, with interacting with other artists. A lot of people like this space. I have done some sort of open studio days here, and it does lend itself to exhibiting work. So I thought, well, why not show other people's work here? Which is what I'm doing, and that was no more than that, except there was a need for people to have a space, quite an informal space, I would say. It's undaunting. It's hopefully welcoming and hospitable and all those things. And it really is it is the blank walls that artists sometimes need to be able to show their work off, at its best, out of the studio environment. So it's, it's really brought me into contact with a lot of, wonderful people, wonderful artists. And I really, really value this, this connection with other artists. Because there's always going to be some cross-pollination of ideas, and I love that. I love speaking about art with others, with people who have that same sort of motivation as I do. It also forces me to put a little bit my business hat on, because, life is expensive, there's bills to pay, and I think I found a model where I can keep this space going, selling other people's artwork, curating their exhibitions. And it is very much a one-woman show here, so it's everything from the invitations to pouring drinks at the vernissage to hanging, nailing walls, putting nails in walls. Everything. So it's been good, and I think it's also been a kind of a good place for people who may not have much experience with exhibiting. A lot of people have had their first solo exhibitions in this space, and so I think, in that sense, it's been maybe it's a step up. Maybe it's a step up environment for people who haven't exhibited before.
That's wonderful. I really feel it, and I feel the passion from you. Maybe just to kind of dip into the idea that you said about the business, because you're a business person. You said you do everything from A to Z within that process, but of course, finding the artists is a big part of it, and it's got, I suppose, you tell me, it's got to feel right for you. So maybe could you tell me about that process of discovering new talent or existing artists that really resonate with you?
Well, I'm lucky in that I'm very much surrounded by artists. I spent a few years in the Academy at Overijssel, in the BKO, Beeldende Kunstopera's. So there's already quite a big network, and of course I'm constantly visiting exhibitions around Brussels, Belgium, but already in Brussels there's a lot of talent, a lot of exhibitions going on. I have found artists from following their work on Instagram. I have approached people out of the blue, at their exhibitions, maybe in smaller places, or at Artistentour or Parcours d'Artistes, those kind of things, which are great showcases, I have to say, for people who are kind of starting out and who are dipping their toe into exhibiting for the first time. I find them really interesting. Finding to meet new people and seeing their work, but also to speak with the artist, because the artwork is one thing, but the relationship between the gallery and the artist is so important. You've you've got to click, because it's a tight relationship for those few weeks of the exhibition, but in maybe the year preceding, you need to be on the same sort of wavelength, and you need to understand expectations from each other, and yeah, it has to work, you know, and it has. I'm really lucky, you know, with maybe some very minor exceptions. I've been extremely lucky in the artists who have agreed to work with me here.
Great, thank you. So, well, maybe to finish off, what advice would you give to a young artist today?
Gosh, I don't know. I've never been a young artist. I would keep an eye on open calls. We have just done one here, which I forgot to mention is another way that I have to come into contact with artists that I wouldn't have before. Yeah, open calls. You know, engage in your own community. See what opportunities are there. I mean, if an artist approaches me, I really want to know. I need to know that they've done the legwork. You know, that they have tried selling opportunities before they have come to a gallery, that they have done their local, you know, exhibitions in their own area, that they have engaged in their local community, that kind of stuff. You don't go from, you know, graduating from your college or your academy straight into gallery. There is really valuable time between the two where you have, you know, try to engage your own network, develop your own network, and yeah, and visit as many exhibitions. Always be learning. That's it. Just always be learning. You never stop learning.
Great. That sounds really positive and super. Just to round off, Helen, thanks very much for your time. Maybe you can just say what's up next for you at the gallery. Maybe mention again some of the things that you do here, and how do we find it?
Right. So you find me on Instagram at Green Door Brussels. This exhibition at the moment is a German artist who did several residencies in Iceland. So this is all about the Icelandic landscape. And she even came with a truckload of sea plastic, which she took from the beaches near Reykjavik. So the next one after this will be the group exhibition, which we did the open call for, called Small Matters, which is small format artworks, two-dimensional artworks. That is going to be running in November into December. In January, we have a Belgian artist, Marianne de Roux, painting sort of semi-abstract, lyrical, gestural artworks. Really, really sumptuous colours. Really looking forward to that. And after that, then we have an Irish artist called Jacqueline Lynch, who has huge paintings normally, and I have no idea how we are going to fit them into this space, but I'm meeting her today, so I hope she has some smaller work. Yeah, so that's, yeah, so we're right into 2026 already, but yeah, so many projects up and coming, so keep watching.
Great, thanks very much, Helen. Thanks for your time. Good luck with your upcoming exhibitions, and yeah, good luck. Well done.